Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's Adam with Retro Repairs today, and I'm going to show you how to replace the battery on a Game Boy Advance cartridge. So I'm going to use this as an example. It's Pokemon Sapphire, and I'm going to try and put it into the Nintendo DS Lite, and I'll show you what happens with this. So Game Boy Advance cartridges, they will allow you to play a game without a battery in them. And you can even save your games most of the time without a battery. What the battery does power is a clock a lot of the time, so it can keep track of real-life time, which is what this does. So it can have events for daytime, it can have events for nighttime, and all sorts of things like that. So in order to take advantage of those, you do need to replace the battery when it runs dry. So this is what I get. Press start. The internal battery has run dry. The game can be played. However, clock-based events will no longer occur. So if I play, this clearly recovered from a save state. So it's certainly mostly playable, just no clock-based events. So what I'm going to do here is show you how to open this, and I'm going to show you how to replace the battery. So to open it, we just need our tri-wing screwdriver. So this is a screwdriver with 3 wings on it, and it opens up this special security screw. So we can take that and we can set that off to the side. And then we show the game board underneath. So this is a Game Boy Advance board here. So a couple of things that you want to look for generally is when you're buying one of these, firstly, there's an awful lot of fake Pokemon games out there. This one, however, is real. So you're looking for 2002 Nintendo, and then this is the board revision at the bottom. Sometimes these fake boards will actually spell Nintendo incorrectly, or they'll have different markings, or be a different color, or something like that. So those are usually dead giveaways. I'm just familiar with the look and the layout of these, so I know what a proper board is supposed to look like. So first thing we got to do is remove the old battery from the board, and it's fairly straightforward to do. You need your soldering iron, and you and a pair of tweezers, and all you're going to do is hoop your tweezers under here, heat up the solder, and then lift one of the battery terminals up. Flip it around, and we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So before I go too far, it's worth noting, you see there's a little plus sign right here. It's hard to see with the light glare, but this side, the top side, is positive. That means this pad is also positive. So when we replace the battery, we need to put the positive side of the battery connecting to this pad. There we go. Lift the battery off and put it aside. So this battery is a CR1616. You can focus it right there. Now there are a couple different sizes that you can replace these with. It comes down to what you can physically fit into the space provided. Some games you have more space than others. For example, on the older Game Boy games, like Game Boy Color, you would use a CR25 or CR2025 or CR2035. This one, it's actually a little bit smaller. Now, I am actually going to try and use one of those CR2025 batteries, just because that's what I happen to have handy. If it doesn't fit, then I'm going to have to order the proper size one. So this is a CR2025, and again, the tabs line up. It's just a matter of the battery being a little bit thicker. So we need to make sure that the cartridge case will close properly with this battery into place. So before you go too far, what I like to do is clean off the solder from the old pads, and to do that, I'm going to use a soldering braid. So we'll get that into view. So I have my soldering braid. I put a little bit of flux on it. That helps to wick the solder up into the braid. Then all you do, you place the soldering braid over top of the pad, heat it up, and all that solder has been lifted up. Now again, we're going to do the same thing over here. Now this time you do want to be quite careful, as there are a lot of little components surrounding the soldering pad here. So if you're not comfortable with your soldering skill, you may actually want to just leave this one alone. There we go. It's not perfectly clean yet, so we'll go back. And that'll do. And the point of that is just to remove the old solder so that we can put some fresh solder in, which will flow nicer. So I'm going to put more flux on these pads, and we're going to flow some new solder onto them. So I grab my solder, grab my iron, and then making contact with the pad, you just gradually dump some solder into here. You want to have a nice shiny blob of solder there. And same thing with this side. There, perfect. Yep, I'd say that looks good. Alright, so the next step is going to be to replace the battery. So first thing we want to do is verify the polarity that we're supposed to install this at. So beside each tab there's going to be a little positive symbol and a negative symbol, and this one, it seems to be, I think it's actually kind of covered under some flux, so it's hard to see. But despite what I said earlier, this is the positive side down here. So you need to orient your battery so that positive is going to be connected to the positive, which is what the top here is. I thought I had saw a positive symbol on the other side of this battery, but it was just a scratch. So installing the battery is pretty straightforward. What I like to do is put a little bit of flux on the tabs. It helps to clean them a bit and to helps ensure that they get bonded properly. And then all we do, line up your battery the way you like it, heat up the solder on top of your tab, and that solder should flow quite nicely. Then you let it sit for a second to cool off. If need be, you can add a little bit of extra solder to it. You just need to apply downward pressure on the battery, heat up the tab, and just add some solder. Try not to cover this with my finger. There. You really want to embed that tab into this solder. That really makes sure that it's not going to let go later. And then same thing here. Heat up the solder, heat up the tab, and let that solder flow. Now what you can also do is, if it's not really grabbing quite nicely, which it's not here, use a pair of tweezers to just push down on that tab. There we go. So then clean off your soldering iron when you're done. And that's the finished product. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, this is a little bit of a thicker battery, so the trick with this is going to be to actually make sure that it fits in the enclosure. Sometimes this isn't going to work for you, so you have to kind of, you may have to get the actual proper battery. For most of these tab batteries like that, they are interchangeable. It's a matter of the actual physical size. They all supply the same voltage, so you can replace a CR2025 with a CR2032. Just a matter of will it physically fit. Same with the CR1616s. You can replace that with a CR2025, which I did. Again, it's a matter of does it physically fit. Okay, so that's good to go. It actually did fit this size battery, so that is good to know that you can replace the CR20 or 1616 in a Game Boy Advance game with a 25 and it will fit. So let's turn it on and let's see if we get that same clock error. Alright, so main screen, it should show up right after it asks me to press start. And there we go, no more clock error. So from here, I mean, you're not going to notice any type of difference in gameplay, but I can go back to the main city, I can set the clock, and it will now give me time-based events. So sometimes you can only catch certain Pokemon at certain times of day or meet certain people. So that's kind of the point of that. For older games, like on the Super Nintendo or the NES, like Super Mario World or Legend of Zelda, that battery actually controls your game saves. So if that battery runs dry, you can't save your game anymore. So it is quite a bit more important on those ones in order to keep the batteries in good condition. So that's it for this. I've successfully replaced the battery. I hope that one of you are able to do that same repair yourself rather than writing a cartridge off as broken. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and hopefully you can take something from it. Thanks a lot for watching. Be sure to like the video. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. And subscribe to my channel. You'll be the first to know when I release new stuff. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.